and welcome back to another video. We're doing more of the have you ever had an encounter with an angel or a demon? Because I actually find this subject to be completely fascinating and I absolutely love it. So we're going to start off with a couple of little stories here and I hope you're enjoying these. And here we go. So the first one we're going to start off with, I've always believed in the metaphysical world. I used to be religious, but that faith has faded when I started uni. Because partying and drinking and dating really wasn't compatible with my religion, I also started to question God. The typical, how can there be a God when there's so much suffering going on? That thought diminished my faith, but deep inside I always knew there must be a higher being. The recent deaths in the family and friend circle have strengthened the faith again. I'm still conflicted with the religion because I practice magic to increase my clairvoyant abilities and for healing. I know the use of magic isn't compatible with the faith in God, but that's another topic. Since I started with magic, I believe I am more aware of the encounters with other spiritual beings. I saw my neighbor walking a big black dog with fiery eyes one time. Then I asked my neighbor what he was doing with the dog because he actually hates dogs, and he was startled because he said he wasn't with a dog. Then his girlfriend stood by and probably thought a psycho was on the loose. That experience scared me because I was 100% sure that I saw one, and I don't take drugs or anything. When I read on it, it said that these type of dogs are mostly demons or jinns coming to tell you that death is near. In fact, my father-in-law died shortly after. Was that a spiritual entity? My son, age 5, ran off one time and we couldn't find him. The police were called and the entire neighborhood was looking for my son. I thought I would just kill myself if my son doesn't appear soon. My son gladly returned after 2 dreadful hours. He knocked on the door and I asked him how did he find his way back and where he was. He said calmly that he was running around carrying a woman, running around a crying woman, offered to help him and find his way home. I asked where she was right now so I could thank her, and he said she's right here, and he pointed behind him, and I didn't understand. Then I asked him again, and he turned around and said, "Oh, she's gone now." My husband and I were truly shocked, but most of all happy that he was returned. Was that person an angel? I'm still not sure whether I'm just playing myself. Have you had experiences? What makes you sure that they are indeed spirits around and not drugs, hallucinations, misinterpretations? Okay, so that's interesting actually. The idea of the kid disappearing is terrifying. I think that's pretty much any parent's worst fear. Okay, so the next story. I don't know exactly what or who I encountered, but it was one of the most profound things that have ever happened to me and has impacted my life forever. I was 14. My mom and I lived in a typical council estate flat in West London. It was Saturday morning at around 2 a.m. and we were about to go to bed after a night of watching television. Mom turned off the television, important to remember later, and went into her bedroom to put something away. I was lying on the sofa with my kitten, Katie, and wide awake. I sat up to get ready to get into my wheelchair to go to bed. Suddenly, it was like static in the air, but there was no noise, nothing but silence. At this point, I was totally alone in the living room as Katie, had wandered out into the hall. I just happened to glance at the television and saw that it was glowing with a beautiful white light, and in the center of the television, a really ancient old woman was staring directly at me. Her face ran with lines, her hair was long and straight, and eyes were filled with so much goodness and wisdom. It was as if she saw right into my soul, and I was bathed with a strong kind of tranquility and calmness I hadn't felt before. This is not to say that I wasn't surprised by the event. I called out to Mom twice. As suddenly as she came, the beautiful pure light disappeared along with the ancient wise wisdom woman. There was static once more, and the screen was black again. My mom came out of her room a few seconds later, not even hearing me seconds before or noticing my alarm until I told her what I had just told you. Mom is always very slightly skeptical when the unexplained is concerned, but we come from a family of healers, and she has much of her fair share of unexplained events in her own life, so it didn't really faze me or surprise her too much. Through all this, I didn't once feel threatened or menaced by the vision of the wise woman, and I've always remembered her with curiosity and interest. In fact, I have sometimes wished that she would come visit me again. And someone replies with, "It's possible that she was your guide in life or from your soul family. Even if you don't see or feel her, I'm sure she is protecting you and watching over you." I replied, that's exactly what I think. I come from a family of healers and sensitives, so I've had paranormal and supernatural experiences all my life, as have the rest of the family. With my beautiful wise woman, I felt like I was always at home. Thank you for reading. That's pretty cool. It's actually a really cool one. Okay, so story number 3. Not me, but my girlfriend. She comes from a family of somewhat sensitive people to the paranormal. They used to live in this old house that was not only a demonic entity, but she encountered an angel. On a nightly basis, her sister would be listening to music and look over because her rat was freaking out. It screamed like something was attacking it. Then a weird shadow in the shape of a ball went up against the wall and down to her closet. She also heard someone scream, "Get out." My girlfriend one night was going to the bathroom. As she walked, she saw a figure of a calming presence glowing in a bright white light. She believes that was an angel. I know which one I'd rather see. Story number 4. I was about 7 or 8. I don't remember. It was Christmas Eve, and I had been in Christmas spirit and so excited that I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about the presents under the tree, viewing the Lego boxes and building them while eating chocolate. Things were going as planned, no noise except for police cars and bikers ramping up their engines going down the highway. It then reached 2 a.m. and I got bored, so I started to fall asleep. I put my head down on my pillow and sat for a while, and I started hearing footsteps. Not quiet ones, but loud footsteps, louder than my father. They would have to have been at least 400 pounds to make that much noise. It then abruptly stopped, no reason, as it had stopped by my door. It then finally opened, and I heard creaking and shoved my head under the covers. I was a pretty fearless 8-year-old, wasn't scared of horror movies or anything like that, but the dark of the monster under my bed, nothing. This terrifies me. A tall man, skinny about 6 or 7 feet, looking at me with small eyes and squinty, saying nothing. He had horns and long fingernails. Then he softly said, "Lucky," and walked away. That night I did not sleep. I sat in the same position for 6 or 7 hours thinking about what was said. At that time I did not know what Krampus was or who he is. Literally nothing about him at all. I have never heard of a description of this being before. I guess I did get lucky. And the reply was, why do you think he was referring to when he said lucky? I still don't know to this day, but I'm assuming he actually couldn't do anything to me. Maybe I had like a barrier or something. I really have no clue, and I'm still trying to piece it together. And another reply was, maybe you were being protected. Whatever, I feel a little stretched out. I'll call my angels to protect me. Certainly most of us have at least one guardian angel. Some of us have more power. Some are more powerful than others. I think in this case, yours were with you and came to your defense. You may have also momentarily borrowed your family's angels too, the ones that were in the house at the time, and quite possibly other benevolent ones that were nearby, and they rallied to you. I know I've been protected by mine in the past. I try to acknowledge and thank them whenever I can. I think it's important to let them know that they're there and appreciate their help and guidance, even though you may not realize it for all that they do. I think that's also very important. When something like that happens and you're protected by whatever you are protected from, be gracious and thank them, because they didn't have to help you. And if you made it through alive, definitely something to be thankful for. Okay, so I think we're on story 5. Demonic. I grew up in a haunted Victorian home. We had multiple entities, and I believe at least one of them was demonic. My mother had Munchausers by proxy when we were growing up, which I think may have brought me closer to the veil. I was deathly ill numerous times. I still see things, and I recently told my significant other that our neighbor was dead 2 weeks before she was found. Hey! I have a few experiences that I believe are demonic. I feel like angelic experiences are more rare, so I will tell a couple of those as well. My family used to care for a World War II vet and his wife who lived around the corner. They didn't have kids, had no car, and got too old to get their own groceries and such. The husband died first. When he was in his bed, amidst war flashbacks, he kept asking his wife who the silver man with wings was. For 2 days he kept asking who these strange men were at the end of his bed. Then he died in his sleep. We continued to care for the wife for about another 1 to 1.5 years. She started complaining about goblins in her house that were pestering her and moving her things about. Then she started seeing the silver men. Her dead husband showed up with the silver men and apologized for being so awful to her. She ended up breaking a hip shortly thereafter and went into a home where she soon died. Unfortunately, I was unable to be with her because of coronavirus, but she knew it was coming because she had seen the silver men for months prior. She was prepared because she believed they were angels. And there was a reply here with, my mom also reported seeing people just before she passed, but she saw her parents. Grandma passed about 8 months prior. Grandpa passed 6 years before. and her high school sweetheart who passed at 19 years old in Vietnam. I know they were there to help her transition, but my mom fought it until her last breath. She just wasn't ready to go. That's that's sad. A lot of people don't want to go, and it's got to be hard when it's their time and they feel like they have something left, or they're out of fear or whatever. But I do think it's very comforting to know from other people's experiences here that in some cases there's someone there to help you. There's someone there to guide you, help you along the way. That's something you could at least look forward to. Story 6. When I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, my husband had a root canal. He seemed a bit shook up, so I wrapped him in a blanket to sleep, and I went to sleep on the sofa. It was easier to get some sleep that way since I was pretty big at the time. Around 5 a.m., I heard him snoring really loudly, not realizing that he was having a seizure, most likely brought on by the stress of the dental work. I called 911 as soon as I realized something was wrong. They came and treated him, and I tried to go back to bed in order to decide if I should call in sick to work. My thoughts were terrifying. I'm 6 months pregnant, and my husband almost died in my arms. I was in shock and my mind racing. I lay down on the sofa and tried to relax. All of a sudden, I was aware of the presence of someone in the room. I thought, didn't I lock the door? Are the paramedics still here? Then I had the thought, is that an angel? And I got an immediate telepathic response back saying that it was, empathetically, yes, and I got so excited. I couldn't open my eyes or move, but I could see in my mind's eye that it was a glowing ball of light, and it could sense my feelings. It would come closer to me and then retreat because I was excited and scared at the same time. It was reacting to my vibes. It got closer. As it got closer, it radiated pure love. Love that was 1,000 times stronger than any love I had experienced on earth. That's part of what my fear was. I was so shocked and amazed at this love, but I also experienced a sense of shame that I was not as loving, especially in that frightened state. Telepathically, I asked permission for it to enter my heart, and as my mind was struggling to understand what was happening, I sarcastically replied with, It telepathically asked. I sarcastically replied, sure, why not? And I immediately shot into my chest. The love was so overwhelming that my mind finally surrendered trying to figure out what was happening, and I became pure love with this entity. I don't use any mind-altering substances, so I neither hallucinated this, not likely, as it's too real and vivid, or at that moment in time, the shock of my husband being sick and me feeling pregnant and vulnerable made my consciousness break enough to enter another dimension of perceiving. I did call in sick, but I've always been able to call upon this memory as a real reminder that I am spirit having a human experience, and I was able to use this to help me through the birth, knowing that I wasn't alone. It was so real that I wish I could convey the feeling to everyone. From that moment, I will never deny the reality of angels. That's a pretty good story. Okay, so story number 7 starts with, this is going to sound anticlimactic AF. I'm pagan, and I believe that there are higher powers, but not necessarily in the sense that we need to bow down to them. More like teacher and student case, but I know they exist as I have both seen many things. Felt many things, and many people have had similar experiences that can't be a coincidence. So here's one. Inhuman spirits can live human lives. They can be reborn and crap if they want. Why I chose to do this is beyond me, because this planet is all over the place right now. I work with Anubis, Egyptian god of funerals, the dead, spirits, and more. Some say Osiris is the god of the dead, but it's a massive misunderstanding, so I'd bet there's lots of them. My friend works with Loki, Norse god of trickery, mischief, and more. He's hilarious, let me tell you. We can both hear them loud say day sometimes more clearly than other people. No, we aren't on drugs, and no, nothing is wrong with our heads. We only hear them if they want to be heard, and we only started after we tried contacting them, and they finally gave in with like an annoyed parent. An old friend of mine has an angel that watches over his family. He was adopted, so he doesn't count or something. His name was short, but I can't remember what it was. I never talked to him directly. He was sassy through a Ouija board once, though. Don't worry, I know it was him because I'm a medium. I'd smell it if there was something else. Laugh out loud. The big guy, as some refer to him, never contacted me, but I've heard that other pagans who contacted him. Gotta say their actual names. Yahweh, I think it's spelled. I'm not going to say it out loud because if he shows up in my room, it'll probably feel like sitting in a charged battery. Basically, there's at least a little bit of truth to all religions. It's a lot of truth you have to discover for yourself. I do believe the dog you saw was a hellhound or just an omen. The woman that led your kid home sounds like either a really nice spirit, maybe an ancestor, or a guardian angel. Good luck in your search. A couple of people asked her to reply, so we'll read the reply. Her final reply, her update. Sorry for late reply. I had midterms these past couple of weeks. Contacting Anubis, I just went online to see what I had to do. Some guy who works with him mentioned that if you want to work with him too, you have to light a black candle and start talking if he's right in front of you. Black is a color of protection in Egyptian mythology. Now I'm going to stop right here and say, please don't do any of this. Unless you're fully equipped and prepared for the ramifications, this is just a story. Do not attempt any of this on your own unless you are prepared, ready, and good to go. Back to the story. So I got a little black candle and a small figurine of him from a mystic shop and started talking away. Things felt a bit different after that, and I'm not sure how to explain it. Later on, I got a dagger with hieroglyphics across the hilt. I name it so it has a connection to only me. Later at the mystic shop, I felt like there was something there I needed. Ended up buying a black crystal ball. I take my dagger and put the tip of the crystal ball and basically heard someone go, hello. Later on, my friend who is strong, a mad strong medium, mentioned I had eyes on me. She just said I needed my dagger and my ball, but I hadn't told her about those. When I bring those things to her, and I needed to place the tip of the dagger on the ball exactly as I had done before. Again, I hadn't told her anything. So I do that, and this time the connection between the dagger and the ball sticks, so he pops up and we notice him. We just know it's him despite not seeing him. I worshipped him in the past life when Egypt was at its prime, by pharaohs and temples and such, and that's why I've always felt something connected to Egyptian mythology in the first place. Over the years, I've been able to talk to him by just concentrating a bit. He'd had to save my dumb ass from bad situations. LMAO. That's how I got started with my guy, Anubis. Again, these are interesting and I like them, just don't take them to heart so much. Maybe be a little cautious. Again, don't open a door to something you're not prepared to handle. That's my basic belief. So I think we're up to story 8. I tend to sometimes see shadows, small blobs, and stuff like that. I try not to make a big deal about it, but I can see it sometimes. One time it came into my room. I came into my living room to find out that the inside door was opened. I closed it to make sure with the lock, then went to the kitchen and went back to the living room. The door was opened again. I told my girlfriend that if she opened the door, I asked her if she opened the door, and again she said no. I went to use the restroom after telling her, and she goes out from the bedroom to the living room, and I heard her say, "Who left the door open?" I swear I locked the door 2 times with the lock on. I specifically turned the knob and rechecked that it couldn't happen again. That made me crazy that night. I have more things that happened too. Story 9. This entity was witnessed by me, my brother, and my 2 best friends. We were all 8 to 12 at the time. I was the only one in the group who believes in the supernatural, and my friends, my brother, always made fun of me for it. One night we saw what looked like a man in a long dark cloak standing on our street. Our neighborhood was small and we had mostly elderly neighbors, so we knew it wasn't a prank. We decided to approach it, and as we got closer we saw it was a man, about 5'6". The cloak was long and hid his face and hands. He stood there, staring at us. We asked him who he was, and he did not respond. He looked like the Grim Reaper, but without a scythe. And even though he was physically there was something very off about him, like he didn't belong with the living. I still don't know what he was, but my guess was that it was an angel of death, as described in the Bible. After he appeared, 2 neighbors died, one from suicide, and one was a homicide. Yep, that sounds like that. Yeah, completely. This one's just an interesting. I think there was that the use of magic isn't compatible with Christian dogma or organized religion, but you tell me that praying, summoning the Holy Spirit to give us gifts, if that isn't magic. Lighting candles and chanting prayers is a ritual, and when our prayers are answered, God is magical and the Creator's energy and grace all around us. That's a different take on it, and I can't say I completely disagree. What is this, story 10? I would believe more in gods if there was no such thing as evolution. If we were supposedly sent to this earth to learn and to experience things that we can't experience in our spiritual form, why was there evolution? Why would we have gradually developed over time from monkeys and then into caveman? This was all proven. There is no doubt that evolution happened. How come clairvoyants and other peoples have never seen a ghost or a caveman? We only see ghosts of people we see every day or have read about or have seen on TV. As it is when we see ghosts from 200, 300 years ago, etc. No one sees dead Roman soldiers or crusades running the streets at night, unless they are actually no god or gods. We have been a part of the universe and our spirits, but all alone. It's the darn science that puts a stop to a lot of religious claims. And this person replied with, wow, I never thought about that. Talk about thought-provoking. I wonder what the era the oldest notorious seen ghost is from. I heard of Native American ghosts, but they theoretically could be within the past 200 or 300 years. I've heard of European ghost sightings that could be 400 or 500 years old and more based on their attire or weaponry. But yeah, I've never heard of a primitive ghost, like a caveman or something. The one thing I could point out is that many religions believe in reincarnation in some form or another, so it's possible that our spirits are reborn after so long and don't dwell here for many centuries. What's more, and there's more and more evidence, even if anecdotal, that the spirit gets recycled and progress with each lifetime. I tend to think that more and more. So many credible people with so many believable stories supporting belief. And now with the internet and the outlets like Reddit, for example, people can share their experiences from all over the world. To me, it just reinforces that. There are also well-known stories of old spirits that don't let themselves be seen but are extremely powerful. Who knows how long they've been on the earth, honing their powers? Hundreds of years? Thousands? Did our more primitive ancestors believe them to be gods or demons when they witnessed that power? Interesting to think about. It really is. But there's another reply. So it was all thought provoking. I have been messing around with the spirit box, and I swear I get some interesting responses from spirits. I also have a spirit, Patrick, that comes around a lot. Also, my friend died in 2011, but it could be on auto matrixing. I've had experiences where I know people are dead, and they are. I had my ex pop in my head like crazy for a week, and now she has broken up with her husband and is seeing someone else. Like ESP could only be just a natural part of human being. So you can't trust your mind on anything because it can be easily tricked. Look at all the people who think they have met the Holy Spirit, speak in tongues, and get healed, with absolutely no proof whatsoever. I am of particular interest in this subject because I have ailing health. I am having a hard time accepting death as a finality. That's interesting. Yeah. And someone replied with, ghosts of Roman soldiers have been seen in some profile cases. So yeah, I think there are definitely some older ghosts. However, kind of piggybacking on that, if these spirits are reincarnated, if the energy is just being replaced into a new body, then possibly there's sounds silly. There's a time limit. And after so much time passes, it's just a amount of how much energy is stored up. And, you know, cavemen maybe it's back too far. Their energy hasn't carried over enough. I don't know. It's all theoretical. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to think about. Very thought provoking, which I like. So the last one is, I don't really believe in anything like angel. Well, this would be number. I don't really believe in anything like angels, demons, or spirits, but I've had strange experiences with some of my close New York family. The only times I've seen a ghost was the black shadow figures out of my corner of my eye. Mostly see animals. They're rarely humanoid. One time in my old house in my hometown, I definitely had a funky thing with my television from like the 90s where the volume would go up a few notches on its own. I always assumed faulty wiring or I was laying on the remote. Another time, I had moved houses and was again watching TV when someone breathed heavily right into my ear. I didn't have any pets and I only lived with my mom at the time. At first, I thought she snuck up behind me to prank me, but I looked and she was across the room, sitting at the computer desk. My mom also doesn't believe that she had a dream when my aunt committed suicide, and that I saw her, my aunt, her sister, was burning in hell, which is weird because neither of us are religious. She also saw her dad, my grandpa, at the edge of her bed when he died, and it was kind of like him saying goodbye, and she didn't want to see him before he died. She writes that off as a dream, too. Never seen anything besides tricks of light, with my own eyes going funny. Even when I've done drugs, I don't see things. The other thing is that I've experienced. The other things I've just experienced are just weird. There you go. So, what do you think? Angels, demons, paranormal, spirits, past life stuff? I don't know. It's all fascinating. And I appreciate you listening and watching. If you don't mind, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and go watch another video. I appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye.